Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Dan Gargan, and we are inviting you back into our living room. Major League Journeymen on deck. We got a newly minted champion, not in Dax McCarty. He still has yet to win his first hardware, but Alan Gordon is the champion of all champions for what do we got, Gordo? U10 girls? Is that what
U11 rec girls in their first tournament ever. Let's get it right. We won the hardware. I mean,
you're setting a pretty high bar. 1 for 1?
1 for 1, man. I mean, listen, I've never seen. I thought we were going to have a few heart attacks on the sideline. These parents have never seen anything like this. We battled hard. I was proud of these girls, man. There's nothing.
Hold on,
like
I got a question. How many supporter shields have you won as a coach? How many supporter shields has your daughter's team won?
I don't
okay. Got it. Okay.
No, can I answer? I haven't lost the game in like 5 years.
That's 5 supporter shields then, right?
Yes, but this is the first actual tournament. We went to the Colorado Rock Cup, which is their claim to fame is one of the biggest rec tournaments in the world, I think. And so we entered into that bronze division. So we're in the lowest division. Let's just call it right there. So there's a lot of quality soccer out there. And listen, we are in the front of the goal for the entire game, and we cannot get it in. So like those air kicks and twisting your body and trying to do it for them it's like it's on an all-time high.
The team plays a lot like their coach used to play.
Oh yeah, I am very used to seeing that type of soccer for sure.
Well, our listeners want to hear one thing. Are you more of a Bruce Arena, player manager, or are you more of a tactician?
I'm a player's manager for sure. We do lightning.
That's obvious.
Like knockout. You guys remember that knockout game where like you shoot it and then you run and you're the goalie? They love that. We play that for like 40 of the 45 minutes that we practice soccer. So I literally, my job with them, and I don't want to go too deep into this, but like when I got forced into this job, I didn't want it. I got forced into it and I was like, no problem. I'll go out there. They were like 5. And these girls, I was like, these girls look through my soul. Like literally. Yeah. They were like, screw you and you trying to make us good at soccer. Like, so I was like, all right, we're just going to enjoy this. And we've been doing that for several years, which is nice.
Last night, my U8s that I coach, we did kickball. We played kickball and we did the sparkle dance, and we had a cartwheel competition. That was the finish. And the girls couldn't have been happier, which I think is
it's everything.
It's everything. It's
everything.
It is legitimately what is important for 7, 8, 9, and 10-year-old girls.
Oh man. These stories, you guys are pulling me so much closer to retirement. It just sounds like so much fun.
I'll tell you what, we would all smoke you in a cartwheel competition, Dax. I can promise you that.
We're giving you all the tips and tricks, So I told my girls I would teach them like a step over, and I said anybody that does this in the game gets a treat. So I bring all this candy. And so my defenders are literally doing it in front of our own goal. And I'm like, no, not there. Not right there. Anywhere else.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's good.
If they do a step over in front of the goal, they're going to have to pay a penalty, which is going and buying the Coach Allen a beer.
Oh, Daddy comes. Coach
yeah,
Gordon
you think he's not bringing a cooler that he's sitting on?
Coach Gordo's got the special cooler.
That's standard.
No, that's Daddy's special juice. No. That's not a Gatorade.
That's not where the Capri Suns are, ladies.
Let's talk a little bit about actual soccer. Dax, you pick up another win in Charlotte. That's a big win for you. Even though you may have tried to give it away late in the game. How was Charlotte? Did they show you anything that maybe you weren't expecting of them? Because I'll be honest, I don't really have a high opinion of Charlotte, but I know that it was maybe a tougher game than it seemed.
First of all, Dan, I tried to give it away early in the game by getting turned in the box by my old teammate, Fit BB, Mr. Brant Bronico. Apparently, they call him the mayor of Charlotte. So Gordo.
Wait, can we stay right there, Dax? I mean, how does that feel? I was your teammate, and BB was on the team, and he was like our little brother, right? He was the butt of all jokes, mostly my jokes. And seeing him turn into a player, I will say, I mean, he looked like prime
Iniesta on that play. I gotta say, I was a little taken off guard, but you know what? I do take a lot of pride in that. Now that we've won the game, I've got the 3 points secured in the bag. You know, Nashville SC. I'm just riding on the coattails of another Hani Mukhtar masterclass here. But you know, I did play 90 minutes, and after that, I was really happy for BB because he was, you know, in Chicago, a little bit of a younger brother type. You know, we like to rib him a little bit, like to give him crap from time to time. But I will say that I do take a lot of pride in the fact that, you know, he kept his head down. He worked hard. He's a good kid. He's got a great head on his shoulders. He would come to me from time to time and ask for advice. Say, hey, I want you to be hard on me. What can I do to get better? What can I do to improve? And, you know, I'd like to think that there's a little part of him that took some of my advice and used it. And after the game, we spoke and I said, hey, man, honestly, I've been really impressed with what I've seen out of you the last couple of years. He's gotten head and shoulders better than he was when he was in Chicago. And he's now becoming a big part of that team in Charlotte. So listen, not super thrilled that, you know, I let him turn me a little too easily in the box and he scored a decent goal, but we recovered.
Don't watch the eyes, watch the hips.
His hips, they don't lie. It was a really good win. It was a really good win for us. I have to say that atmosphere that they have created in Charlotte, my invisible hat off to the Charlotte FC fans and that whole city. They are very important in the Charlotte Metro North Carolina area. Seems
How
like
big's that stadium, Dax? And it's turf, right?
It is turf, which is awful, and it's bad turf.
But it looks like a big stadium,
dude. It's where the
NFL stadium is Panthers.
It's the NFL. It's where the Panthers play, so it's massive. And I have to say, I think they had 40,000 people there, and it's loud. People are into it. People are engaged. After Hani scored his first goal, we had a few beers thrown at us, which. Look, I can talk about it a little bit lighter now, but at the time I was pissed. I was like, "What are we doing here, people? You don't throw stuff at players." But listen, I kind of understand it. You know, we're kind of celebrating in front of their supporter section, and they're none too pleased. And so I wish there was a little bit of beer left in that cup. It up and given it like a Josie Altador drink of beer in Atlanta, which was excellent. But there was no beer left.
We talked a little bit about that last week, Dax, about what the fans' kind of role in the passion of the environment is and what they bring to it. Does that bother you? Does that really bother you? Or does it fire you up? I mean, I think about times when we played in Central America and we had bags of coins or bags of piss thrown on us. That doesn't feel as great. But for some reason, having a beer thrown at me in a plastic cup or the bottom of a beer, and that almost kind of made me laugh and fired me up a little bit more than anything else.
I was a little bit old man yells at a cloud in that moment. I was a little upset. I was a little upset with him. I was giving it the, what are you guys doing? But listen, I don't think you can blame a whole stadium or a whole fan base on one or two knuckleheads, you know, doing things that aren't kosher, in my opinion. So yeah, of course you look back on it and you think, all right, you know, maybe the heat of the moment, someone makes a mistake. It is what it is. But as long as none of our teammates and none of my teammates got injured and got hit with anything, a couple suds on the leg is not a problem. But listen, it was a tough game, man. They are a better team than I think a lot of people give them credit for. Their coach, Latanzio, he is a disciple of Pep Guardiola, I believe. Mm-hmm. He's part of his coaching tree. And the way that they play, they want to have the ball. They want to dominate the ball. They want to create chances with overloads and with midfield runners. And they make it really uncomfortable to play against them. And then add on the fact that, you know, that turf it makes the game really choppy. It makes it very difficult to navigate that environment. I thought we dealt with it really well, and we managed the game. I think we would have been happy to get out of there with a point. That's how much respect I think that we have for them. But at the end of the game,
that's saying something.
Yeah, no, it is for sure. They were definitely on top of the game in the last 20 minutes. And so to get out of there with 3 points on obviously a brilliant pass by Anibal Godoy into Hani Mukhtar, goalkeeper makes a good save. Jacob Schaffelberg gets fouled in the box, which. Look, I think Charlotte fans were upset with the call. I can see it going either way. If it got called against us, I would probably be upset as well. But looking back at the replay, there is contact in the box. And so the ref gives a penalty, and it's not enough for VAR to overturn it. So Hani Mukhtar's cold-blooded, finishes the penalty, and gets us a huge 3 points. And it's only our second road win of the season, but you guys know as well as I do that road points in MLS are super, super crucial to being able to secure not only a playoff spot, but a high finish. And so it was a big result for us.
Dude, road wins are gold. Hani Mukhtar, is he your MVP right this second?
There's no question. I mean, he was the MVP last year, and I think he's already well ahead of his goals and assists combined combination there for the how many he has. He's well ahead of his pace that he was last year.
What are you seeing? Are you seeing anything different in him, or is he just finding a different comfort level within the league?
I am seeing something different in him. He is not only still being able to finish chances at an incredibly high level and find chances to score at an incredibly high level, but he's also, I think, doing a better job of getting his teammates involved. I think his assist numbers are higher at this point in the season than they've ever been in his whole career. I think his set piece delivery has been much better this year, which I think was something that he could have improved upon, and he has. And I think the formation change that we've had where, we were playing more of a flat 4-4-2 with him playing as a second striker to now playing more of a 4-4-2 diamond with him being as a 10. It gets another striker higher up the field to take some attention off him, but to also give him another outlet to pass it to. And so I think I have to give our coaching staff a lot of credit for, the change in formation. We are on a run of, I think, 8 games unbeaten in all competitions, 6 wins, 2 draws. And you guys know as well as I do that runs like that can really set the stage for a big season. So
you start to feel like you're moving downhill.
Yeah, you start to get some momentum. And we're feeling really good right now. Obviously, big game in the Open Cup later tonight, which no one will hear about it until this pod comes out. But huge Open Cup game, round of 16 against Inter Miami. We're feeling pretty good about ourselves right now in Nashville.
So
that was your second titty goal.
They send the old man home, though. You're clearly not in Miami.
The old man's getting a break tonight. I played 90 minutes. It was only my second 90 minutes on turf. This is actually kind of funny. Last year, me and the gaffer, Gary Smith, we had a pretty funny conversation back and forth about him. He wanted to rest me in the games that we had on turf. It was the Thierry Henry treatment. I was in the Thierry Henry treatment. And so, we went to Charlotte. He rested me on turf. We went to New England. I didn't play. We went to Portland. I didn't play. The only game on turf I played last year was the opener against Seattle. And now this year, I've started, I think, 9 or 10 games, but I've only played 90 minutes in 2 games. New England away and Charlotte away. Both turf.
So was that bullshit last year or what?
I think it was.
That's what it sounds like.
I think it was coach be like, hey, man, we're just rotating you out. We're using the turf as an example, which is totally fine. You know what? My back was, I have to say, Sunday, I felt like Gordo. I was walking around. I felt like I needed a cane, honestly. My back was so sore.
Gordo's got plenty of excuses you can use. He's been milking that one for a while. Gordo, what do you think about Miami? They got Miami in Miami. They're in maybe a rough way where maybe they start to find their form, but now they're back out of form. It seems to be a little bit of angst, maybe a little bit of frustration, maybe hitting a boiling point. Did you guys see Neville's presser? Did you see the reaction?
That was great.
That was hilarious.
Can I finish speaking? Are you going to interrupt? Can I finish speaking? Okay, because I don't interrupt your question. Okay, so don't interrupt mine. Show some fucking respect. So, sorry for the language. Sorry, what was the question? Ask me the question again, please.
It's good. Where do you think? I mean, we can go a lot of different places, but let's start with Beckham. You have a history with David, and the way he's looking at his club, you'd have to think that he's asking questions right now. I'm sure you're asking questions. He's got a tricky situation in front of him with Neville at the helm. Neville's clearly under some frustration, under some angst. How do you think Beckham is viewing this?
Well, I mean, from my perspective and the way that I know David and how he's a loyal guy, right? He's super loyal. And I know that what I do know about them is that they have the same beliefs. They have the same ideas, and they have the same ideas of how they want the team to be coached. They both were raised in the same system. Everybody knows the history, and so they have the same ideas. And so I'm sure that when they sit down and talk, they are on the same page, right? And so I think that makes it really, really tough for David. And I think this is obviously new territory for him. He's going to have to take off his ex-teammate and friend, and he's going to have to be the owner of a club, which I think is going to be really, really tough for him, obviously, right? That's obvious. But I think it just makes it a little bit tougher when you actually think the same way about the game and how you want your club to be managed and run as the guy that's actually managing it, right? So I don't know enough about it, and I'm not going to pretend to see the ins and outs of how Neville has been coaching that team, but I don't know. Maybe Dax has a better perspective, watching the league a little bit closer. But you see what I'm saying? That's a really, really tough thing because
I do,
and so
for sure.
I don't know where the breaking point is. I think that he's going to give him a super long leash, and he has, right? Dax, you were saying that they started off super slow, right? 6 games in a row, went on a little run. And moving through the summer, I think that if they're not in a position, they're spending money. I mean, you look at the top paid players in the league. I'm looking at it right now. They got a few of them, right?
Yeah, well, that was going to be my question to you, Dax, is does Neville get a longer leash? Do they get a longer leash with the sanctions that they go through previously, bringing in a new sporting director in Chris Henderson and bringing him in and allowing those kind of ideas to infiltrate? But you're still in a splashy market, right? Like you're still in a market that has eyeballs on it. And at what point, do you have to say we should be having at minimum some consistency here?
Listen, I got to say, I absolutely love the press conference. That was hilarious in every sense of the word. It was probably a fair question from the reporter, right? Asking him about, whatever it was, results, tactics, and I think it just shows there is serious frustration starting to creep in there with what's going on in Miami. And I want to defend Phil Neville here for a second because I'm not really sure exactly how big their roster is, but I think they have like maybe 17 or 18 fit players there. They're going through just as big of an injury crisis as Toronto FC is. And so, look, the way that I look at it is, as a midfielder, as a guy who thinks that the middle of the field is the most important part of the field, when you lose your 2 best midfield players, which they have in Gregory and Jean Malta, they've lost their heartbeat. They've lost the guys that make them tick. And it doesn't really matter what else you have, how dangerous you are up top, how solid you are in the back, which they're not very solid in the back. But it doesn't matter how good the rest of your team is if you lose the heart and soul of your squad, which is the middle of the field. They lost their captain and they lost their second best midfielder. So I think Phil Neville has a legitimate gripe about the injury situation, which is a little bit out of his control. But then also number 2, like you see what he's doing right now. He's playing a lot of young players. I see a lot of academy players that are in the lineup for them right now. Mm-hmm. So he's trying to, I think, move through some younger players, see what they've got. And you can see the inconsistency. They win a bunch of games a few weeks ago, and now they're losing some games. They started the season losing a bunch of games. There's just inconsistency there. And to Gordo's point about Beckham being a loyal guy, I think that he's willing to ride it out. I think that if it was solely up to David, that Phil Neville would be his guy throughout the season, no matter how the results went. But you guys know as well as I do, there are other owners that you have to appease in Miami. And to Dan's point, it's a splashy market, man. Mm-hmm. It's a big market. I don't know how long the leash is going to be for some of these other owners who probably have, let's be honest, more skin in the game financially than David does. Yeah. So I would be willing to bet that if a change was made, it's probably not coming from David. It's probably coming from the other owners.
Yeah, but we all know that it doesn't matter who's making that call. It looks like David's making the call because David is the face of that ownership group, and he's the face in a lot of ways of Major League Soccer. I think so. I looked at this and thought the same thing that you are, Dax. There's a lot of young players that they are given a run to, and when you give a run to young players as a coach, maybe I'm way off here, but in my estimation, it would seem like you're pretty comfortable. As in, okay, I'm going to give a 17-year-old a run. I'm going to let this 19-year-old have 6 games because you're not as concerned with the consistency. You want to see what you have, right? What does our stable look like? And then on the other side of this, though, Phil Neville lost his mind in that press conference. Like he lost the plot. He wanted to have a go at the reporter, and then also forgot the question. Had to go back and ask him the question, which is as equally hilarious, right? So there's definitely some frustrations mounting. I don't know. I don't know where they go, but I would say that he's probably not going anywhere. I think that there's enough there that probably extends what he's doing and extends the look. But I think that the window past this season is probably closing if it doesn't change shape. Because even if you're getting young guys a run, you still got to get results because it's too high profile for that to just sit in a mediocre place. But you also mentioned Toronto FC, and Toronto FC I think is in a different scenario. That place is on fire. And it seems like from all angles, with a much different complexion of the roster, a much different complexion of expectations. Gordo, you obviously played up there. We played up there together. Toronto is a different fan base, and that's a totally different animal than what Miami is. They're not going to put up with it. We've already seen. We talked about Mark Anthony Kaye getting, the capo throwing the microphone at him last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was. But that's a whole different level where I would expect to see some type of change. I don't know what that change is going to be and who it is, but there's players coming out now that are frustrated. Does this surprise you at all, Gordo?
What, the player part being frustrated?
No, the players going to the media.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Of course.
Well,
of course.
I mean, yeah. It's got to be really, really bad internally.
Exactly.
If that is going out to the media, we all know that. I mean, one of the silent rules of being a player is keep it in the locker room, right?
Yes.
And if you're going public, that means you're done.
That means it's fractured, right? It's broken.
You're probably looking for change.
You're looking for change, and it's got to be Bob Bradley. Bob Bradley, Dax, you played for him, right?
I played for Bob. Yeah, he gave me my first cap with the national team. Shout out, Bob.
So speak about Bob for a second. I mean, everybody knows that Bob can be very, very, I don't know what the word is.
Bob is stubborn. And listen, I have a special place for Bob in my heart because he gave me my opportunity with the national team, and I'll always be appreciative of that. Bob, I'm a huge fan of Bob. I think Bob's a great coach. I think that Bob has proven that throughout his career. I think what he did with LAFC when he came back to MLS was incredibly impressive. The way that those teams played, it was really tough to play against, and it was really fun to watch. It's very similar to what LAFC is doing right now. But honestly, what's going on in Toronto is one of the most surprising things that I have seen in the last 10, 15 years playing in MLS, because the talent on that team is they're a top 5 talented team in MLS. Now
they've spent the most money.
Okay, fair enough. But guess what? It's MLS. The DP rule is there for a reason. So they can pay Insigne and Bernadeschi $50 million. They can pay him $50 million combined, and it's still only going to count against a salary cap a certain amount. But when you have that talent, the expectations are huge. Now, it comes with a caveat. They have suffered some crazy injuries, okay? So say what you want about how old Michael is. Michael Bradley is still a very important part of that team. He's going to be out for a while. I think that his loss has been huge. Jonathan Osorio, I have no idea what's been going on with him, but he's missed the last couple of weeks, and I rate him very highly. I think he's a huge piece of that team. Matt Hedges was a huge free agent signing. He's had concussion problems. He's been out for a long time. I think that their back line has struggled because of his absences. And so you start to go down the list, and then look, you get to Insigne, and let's be honest, he's probably, on the base of it, one of the most talented players in MLS. There's no doubt in my mind about that. He's got the pedigree, he's got the skill, and when he got healthy last year, he came in and he scored 6-7 goals, and he showed the league exactly what he was all about. But this year, for whatever reason, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. He hasn't been able to stay fit, right? And so that's where you run into an issue, is when you build your team around these huge superstars, Insigne, Bernadeschi, then you have to cater your game model to bringing out the best in those guys. And I think what Bernadeschi is saying, what he came out and said was that essentially, in no uncertain terms, the game model does not fit what our players and our best players do well. So listen, Bob has always played in a 4-3-3. I think with the national team, he played in more of a 4-4-2. But look, when you have Bernadeschi and Insigne, I don't know how you play in any other system other than a 4-3-3 with both of them as your wingers. I just, sorry to get super technical here, but I don't see a different route. Maybe you go to a 4-2-3-1 and you put one of them on the wing and one of them as a 10. Maybe that gives you a little bit more solidity with a
you're talking about two of the most talented players in the league. I think you can place them in a couple different places in the attack.
But that's what I think has to happen. I think that the locker room right now is in a tough place. I think Bernadeschi going public with his frustrations about the tactics is a clear warning sign to Bob that he would like to see change. Because listen, if it comes to a butting of heads between star players on one side and head coach on the other side, I can tell you one thing: the Italians, they're not going anywhere. They're making too much. They're making too much money. They're making too much money. They have too much power in that locker room for them to be either sold or for them to even want to leave. Because why would they, right? They're making too much money. So
it's listen, Bob, though, is not just the head coach. He's the sporting director now, too. And he's the one that put that roster together, right? Like, I don't know, Dax. Let me say, I do not think any change is going to be made. I don't think Bob is going to be fired anytime soon. I think that they are going to give that roster time to get healthy and see what happens throughout the summer. Come on. They're 6-9 points out of a playoff spot, right? They have plenty of time to get back in the race once all their best players get healthy. So they just need to get their stable in order in the locker room. Dude, I think that is such a bullshit cop-out of, as in, like, our roster's hurt. Some of our most significant players are hurt. Like,
is it really though, Dan? Is it really though? When your best players get injured in a salary capped league, you really think that that a coach can't use that and fall back on that?
I don't think that you cannot use it. I'm not saying that. I think that it does not adequately characterize the way that TFC is performing, because TFC spends money in every single position. They don't, and I also don't, I think it discredits the depth of a roster. There's plenty of roster. Like, look at Philly's roster. They built a pretty good roster and they're performing.
You're not wrong.
So I think that it's easy to say, like, oh yeah, well, our players are hurt, but you spent 10 times more than literally everybody else, and that's not just on the top 3 positions. So I don't think that that's a fair excuse, to put it mildly.
That's fair.
I'm leaning more with Dax. I think that if you built the team in a certain aspect and you're spending the money on the players that you want to impact the team to make a push to be one of the league's elite, and you're having issues, that matters. And I think that that deserves some it needs to be accounted for. And you need to have the opportunity to have those players available all together, but then your leash gets really short after that happens. Okay. Once they're healthy, I think you should be able to withstand, the lows, and keep your job through the injuries, get your team healthy. But I think that afterwards, the microscope gets really, really close and the leash gets really short. It's like, okay, now you got what you wanted. Show me what you can do. So I would side a little bit more with Dax. I do see what you're saying, Gargs. You got to build your roster. Dax, I want to ask one question. Do you think that Michael being in that locker room with Bob has an effect on the culture of that team? And do you think that, because we've all been on teams, Gargs, you and I were on the same team with Kenny Arena and Bruce. Okay. I love Kenny and I love Bruce. Okay. But you cannot tell me with certainty that the players that didn't have the relationship with, like we had with Kenny, and when they come in and they see a son and dad duo, I think it takes a lot of respect out of the son. I think they look at it as, kind of like a teacher's pet type of thing. That's the vibe that I get, and I think that Kenny Arena wasn't granted as much respect as he should have because they think he's only there because of his dad.
Yeah, I think there's perception around both sides of it. I think the way that you're describing it is probably fair. I think there's also a little bit of the, if I don't have a good relationship with Kenny and agree with him, then that's going to be, that's going to go straight to Bruce or
Either
Michael to Bob
things,
or right. I think that there's a natural dynamic there that you can't get around.
I agree. I think that there is a natural dynamic that some players are just going to have in their head no matter what. Doesn't matter, right? And so for me to speak to what the actual power dynamic is in that locker room, I'm just not sure. I'm sure that there are some Toronto FC players that have opinions on it for sure. But listen, I think that, look, the Bradleys, they're models of professionalism. Like they both are soccer, they're both soccer nerds. They live it. Right. They immerse themselves in soccer culture. Like that's just how they are.
And I think Michael's a great leader as well.
I do. I think Michael is a great leader. And to not have him on the field is definitely a big loss for Toronto. But again, Jonathan Osorio, this guy is one of the most creative players in the league. And he is the one that essentially is in midfield, supposed to supply the big time attacking players, the designated players, the ball. If you don't have someone that can get them the ball in good spots, they are going to struggle.
Yeah, so and I get that.
I just think that the injuries have had a big effect on them. But listen, Dan, to your point, when everyone was healthy dating back to last year, they still couldn't make a big run to make the playoffs. So you're not wrong. I do agree with your point.
If we were talking about them going from 5th to 1st, right? And what you're saying, Gordo, is in like that you need your best players to be the players that you expect them if you're going to challenge to be the class of the league. We're talking about TFC and the Galaxy being in the bottom of the league, the bottom of the Eastern Conference and the bottom of the Western Conference. And I don't care who you are. Nobody had that on their bingo card at the beginning of the season. So we're also talking about Bob Bradley, one of the most experienced and intelligent masters of the game in this country that can't figure it out. So all I'm saying is I don't think that injuries are a fair assessment and probably don't give Bob enough credit in saying this guy still has plenty of talent at his disposal to get results, and they're not getting results. Greg as well. Greg's not getting results. So I just don't think it's a fair characterization. You guys are, there's having your best players on the field.
No,
it helps you out. I can't refute that, but I don't know. I just don't think it's a big picture take. The other one though there is the Galaxy, who we've talked about, and Greg, who came from TFC now and knows the weight of that, taking on another project in the Galaxy. Their next game, you guys know who their next game is? LAFC.
In the Open Cup.
In the Open Cup, at the bank, on the road with all of this. Like, it seems for the Galaxy to be insurmountable as well, which is crazy. I mean, it's crazy.
You also, Dan, you neglected to mention coming off back-to-back losses on an Eastern Conference road trip.
On an Eastern Conference road trip. Like, I don't...
2-0, 3-0.
You're talking about experienced coaches. Like, what trick, what magic do you pull out of your hat to get your group either prepared or flipped or turned around or ready to go or confident or all of those things? I mean, I
think if you're Greg, you got to go totally against what you believe in, totally against your principles. You got to play 5 in the back. You got to put Chicharito and Ricky Puig as 2 attacking players with maybe one other attacker out there, and you say, all right, we're going to put 7 guys behind the ball. We're going to defend our asses off, and we're going to try to hit LAFC on the break. I think that's what you do. I think that's what you do to stop the bleeding, honestly. I don't think they can beat LAFC straight up. I do think they gave a good account of themselves last time they played at StubHub. I think Galaxy played well, but
probably the best accounting of themselves and still lost.
They played well and still lost. So yeah. I think, hey, maybe sit 7 guys behind the ball, 5 in the back. Let Ricky Puig and Chicharito try to make some magic happen, and you grind out a 1-0 victory. Get your season back on track. That's what I am. That's what I'm seeing.
You're talking from a perspective of a captain on a team. Okay, if all of us as players, we would be saying that. Listen, if we're going to win this game, but what do you think the fans are going to think about that? From all,
I don't think they care.
I don't think the fans care either.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
I think Greg cares.
You're a fan.
No, the fans don't give a shit.
Yes,
how
they do.
How Greg plays.
You wouldn't. I would rather my team, as a fan, I would rather them go out and play some try to play attractive soccer, try to play the way that they are built, and lose 3-2 or whatever. Maybe they get smoked. I think they'll get smoked. They've been getting smoked everywhere. But maybe because it's a derby, go out and play like you're built to play. If I'm not rooting for a team that goes and parks the bus and they're having a shit season. No way in hell, dude.
But it gives you a chance to win a trophy.
I'm gonna be freaking pissed, dude. They can't.
They're already pissed, Gordo.
Exactly.
Dude, yes, I would be more pissed. I would be at least.
Can they be more pissed? I don't know if that's possible.
I would at least have more respect if they went out and played as a fan.
Gordo, I can guarantee you Greg Vanney's going to play the same way. All right. Greg is a firm believer in his fundamentals and his patterns of play and his style of play. They are going to play exactly how Greg always wants them to play. So I'm just, putting my tinker's hat on. I think what I said gives them the best chance to win. You're going into LAFC. LAFC just beat San Jose with a rotated team.
Yeah.
So they have all their studs.
Dude, and they're gonna play their team. I don't see them playing a young team. They're gonna play their team and go for the jugular. We're talking about iconic coaches. Dax, I know that you guys have discussed this already, but iconic coaches in this league in Greg Vanney and Bob Bradley and Peter Vermees, who just got smashed again on the weekend in St. Louis. Realistically on the hot seat, but I know that there's other shit that you guys are talking about in your locker room. What are the topics that are most or give me one topic that's most chopped up right now? Man.
God, honestly, other than the drama that's occurring,
because it's a lot.
You know what, man? It's not MLS stuff. I got to be honest. It's a lot of stuff in Europe. We're talking a lot of Bundesliga talk and a lot of Premier League relegation talk. We're talking a lot about what those Americans at Leeds United are going to do if they get relegated, which.
All right, so let me throw this idea.
It's a difficult situation for the American.
Let me throw this idea.
At Leeds.
So how about Greg Berhalter, Christian Pulisic, and Weston McKennie come and save the Galaxy? What about that? Is that a splash? Is that a big enough splash?
They can't afford them, dude.
What do you mean? Why not? They've been the biggest spenders in the league historically.
I don't think there's enough hallucinogenic drugs on the planet that anyone could take to make someone believe that would actually happen.
Well, all right. Yeah, chew on it. Think about it a little bit.
We can dream.
Yeah, we can
You got
dream.
Greg, former Galaxy player, right?
Oh, yeah.
Christian, Mr. America. Bring him back. He's not getting his run at Chelsea. Bring him back. Make him the face of the league.
2.0.
Face of the league before 2026.
I actually see it. I think
there's some legs here.
There's 0.0 legs there. 0.0 legs.
Hey,
we
were kind of right with Marsh.
Kind of right with Marsh.
Oh, you're taking that now. You're taking
hasn't been announced yet, but hey,
right. Okay. I will eat crow if you guys are right about that. That's not happening. I think. Give me a number that the Galaxy would have to pay Christian Pulisic net for him to convince him to come to the U.S. right now. At this moment in time, he's 24 years old, I think.
25
million?
You would have to pay him $25 million net for him to come over here right now. He's got the likes of, I think, like AC Milan chasing his signature. Like, he's not choosing the Galaxy at this point in his career over playing Champions League soccer. It's just not happening.
All right, so you give me a number. Give me a number.
It would have to be 25 million net, I think, in my opinion, for him to even consider it. Yeah, I know, but it's not going to happen. They're not going to pay him that.
I would.
Yeah, maybe if you're AEG.
If you're AEG,
that'd be fun.
Salvage your brand. I think put yourself back in the marketplace and put yourself back in the conversation. Put Christian Pulisic in a Galaxy jersey.
I think U.S. men's national team fans' heads might explode.
They might. That also could be true.
They might boycott.
We got enough players playing in Europe right now. We can bring one back. All right. So then, what about MLS coverage? Because I think we've touched on this a little bit in some of the frustrations about seeing games as watchers, as digesters, as avid connoisseurs of the league wanting to be able to see games and the frustration there. How do you guys feel as players now, kind of with games all at the same time, and how do you watch? What does that look like for you?
I want Gordo to go first because he always whines and complains when I go first and steal all his talking points.
It's like, it's like when Howard Stern went to Sirius XM. Okay, I used to love listening to Howard Stern, and then if I didn't have Sirius, I couldn't listen to him. He was gone. He was out of sight, out of mind. Never thought about him again. He made a ton of money. It was a great deal for him. He still did great things, but I never got to see him. I didn't have access to him. So I feel the same way. I feel like.
Yeah, but if you were a true fan of Howard Stern, that is supposed to drive you over to purchase Sirius XM.
But listen, that I'm not. I watch. I have a budget. I'm an ex-MLS player, current mortgage lender with 8% interest rates. Okay.
What's your email, Gordo? What's your email, by the way?
Yeah. A Gordon at s1l.com. Call me for any mortgage. We got arms. We got HELOCs. Anyway, so listen. So what bugs me is that when I turn on the TV in the morning, the Premier League is readily available. I can watch several Premier League games. I love watching it with my boys, but I don't think it's doing MLS a justice in this country for young kids. There's not enough accessibility. I like what Apple is doing. I like the groups that they got going on. We got Sasha. We got we got I think we're getting cooler. With how we're presenting the games. I just wish that I could see it a little bit more if I don't have Apple, and I don't. So I need to get it. I just haven't got there yet.
I think that, Gordo, you're a massive podcaster now, with obviously an iconic history in the game. I think if you reached out to MLS HQ, you got plenty of phone numbers up there. I think they might be willing to give you, a season pass because of this elite coverage that you are giving them. So, we're going to try to get you an Apple season pass. Okay.
I'll tell you what, they probably should provide that to all MLS alumni. That'd be a good move for MLS HQ.
What an idea. Listen, I agree with Gordo only in a sense that I love what they're doing with the new talent that they've hired. And I'm not just speaking as a biased former teammate of the MLS 360 crew. I have been able to watch that on occasion, and I think they do a great job. I love the idea of going from game to game, showing highlights, showing great saves. It's as a guy who plays fantasy football, I absolutely love NFL Red Zone. I think it's great for MLS fans that just want to consume every exciting part of the league, and every exciting part of each game. The problem I think you run into is that a lot of MLS fans are very territorial and they only want to watch their team play. So when they do that, clearly you don't drive, I think, enough numbers for people to watch MLS 360. I will, because I want to see highlights from all the games. But my bigger issue is just, I think people have already started kind of talking about it in the social media, Twitter sphere and on Instagram. The fact that there are so many games at the same time that kick off at the same time on a Saturday night that it's so difficult to watch multiple games if you are an avid consumer of the league, and I am. I used to pride myself on watching every single game that was. If I played at Saturday at 7:30 and the MLS had two games before mine, one at a 12:30 kickoff, a 4:30 kickoff, I was watching both those games. If you had two games on Sunday, a 1:30 kickoff and a 5:30 kickoff, I was watching both those games on Sunday. I can't do that anymore.
I know.
I'm lucky if I can watch one full game on Saturday after I'm done playing on the West Coast, and maybe there's a game Sunday, maybe not. And look, people have talked about this, and I think it's a fair gripe, the fact that, I want to consume more live games. I don't want to have to go back and, go onto the Apple app and say, okay,
it's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same because I know the results. I know who scored. I'm watching highlights already. So if I just have one small complaint, that's the only complaint I have. And I'll be curious to see, because I know a lot of people that do watch MLS, they're fans. They're hooked. I think they feel the same way that a lot of us do, is that they would like to watch other games, but they're not going to watch other games that are on when their team is playing, right? Like, you're just not going to do it. If there's a great game, right? Let's say El Trafico is on and LA is playing LA Galaxy, LAFC, LA Galaxy, and Nashville SC is playing against whoever, Orlando at the same time, a Nashville SC fan is going to watch Nashville SC. So you're not going to be able to watch that other big game. So I just think that they can do a better job, maybe spacing the games out, giving us a Saturday day game, giving us 2 games on Sunday. That would, I think, appease me a little bit more. But other than that, I think they're fantastic.
What's your solution?
I love the idea of having a consistency, which is what they were going for, right? Garber and everybody else has been harping on that for years. We want this consistent, reliable space where everybody can tune in. But I think for me, as a journeyman, I want to check in on the Colorado Rapids, and I want to check in on TFC, and I want to watch the Galaxy, and I want to watch the Union where I grew up, and I want to be able to touch base with all of these teams. And I think for you, Dax, what you were saying about being an avid fan of the league, which I prided myself in that space as well. I would watch it all day long. I would turn it on as soon as that game was on. As soon as the Prem finished up, you'd watch whoever was on in the Prem, and then you'd watch MLS until you left for the stadium. And then when you got into the stadium, you'd sit there and watch whatever game was on the East Coast because you're sitting in the lounge bullshitting with your buddies or whatever is going on. But you're seeing things that I think casual observers have a difficult time learning the league. And where my head goes is, how do you get new fans? So to exactly what Gordo's point is, yeah, he's a big Howard Stern fan, right? That also didn't pay and follow Howard Stern to Sirius XM. But some of those MLS fans have done that. How do you get fans behind a paywall where everything's behind a paywall? How do you get them tuned in? And I think one of the big things that I was really hopeful to see out of this deal was MLS get further into bars and restaurants. So it's just there. It's just on, and it's just casual. So I think where I'm at with this deal is I'm excited to see what's next, because I think that they've done an okay job. It's an okay start. Like there are some foundational principles, some bedrocks that they can build on. I think they've brought in some new personalities, which are fun. They've brought in some old personalities, which are consistent and kind of lend a little credibility to what was being done in the past. But I think I'm already kind of anxious to see what 2.0 is and how quickly they can transition and take another step into whatever the next phase is for them. Because
a lot of room for growth.
You have this massive platform in Apple, and Apple's cool. Like Apple's been cool. It's like the pinnacle of kind of, I guess multi-layer cool, right? In this country, an American brand. And now MLS is kind of saddled up next to it. But I also think that Apple's so big that the driver has to come from MLS, and they have to be willing to probably take a look at themselves and say, okay, here's where we're missing. We can do a little bit better. We can satisfy our core fan, our core, MLS avid, rambunctious ultra that wants to watch 35 games in a weekend, because that's who feeds the league, in my opinion.
Yep, I think that's fair. I do think that they they're such an innovative company, and they have too many smart people to let this deal not be a rousing success. And so I'm sure they're already coming up with new ways to pivot and maneuver. And I think that's probably one of the best parts about having a partner like Apple is they're going to make it successful. They are going to make it work. They're going to listen to feedback. And I think they're going to try to appease the MLS fans. But for me, it's like, how much cooler can you make it? Well, I want to know about the homegrown kid who, was a refugee and moved to this country as a 10-year-old and is now playing professional soccer in Columbus, Ohio. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know those human interest stories. I want more like behind the scenes access to training facilities, to locker rooms, right? Like what prominent players are doing off the field. Like, I would like to see clubs really start to venture out and be more daring in trying to draw in fans that way. Because if you draw in fans that way with cool stories off the field, I think they're definitely more willing to watch on the field.
You have a national platform, right? But I think that the league, which is what they do from time to time, they pull everything back in and say, okay, it's MLS HQ. We got to have it here. We got to have control of it. And I think it's having this deal has pulled away some of that local club flavor. Like I was a part of Atlanta for a long time, and they did great content. They had a lot of stuff going on. They had a great deal with the local Fox and Bally's after that, and there was a lot of that content specific, club specific content, which I think those clubs and the league probably could do a bit better of a job in being connective there, so that you're able to learn more about these specific clubs in the central hub. I don't know. There's a lot there. Gordo, are you on the field coaching U11, or are you going to try and catch up and watch some games? What do you got on tap for yourself this weekend?
Season's over, buddy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's over. We're done. Tournament's won.
We're done.
Dust those hands off. We're good. You know who I'm going to watch this weekend? I'm going to watch my good buddy. I'm going to try to catch Dax running around against Columbus. As they say, as Bruce used to say, this is a 6-point game, boys. And we're like, nah, it's actually still 3 points, Bruce, but that's good. But it is. They're 5 points back. I think this is a big game for you guys, Dax. Columbus is a decent squad, dude. We talked about them in the first podcast. What's their record like lately? How are they doing? Looks like they lost to Cincinnati.
They lost a heartbreaker to Cincinnati. But you know what I like about Columbus, the way they play, is that they will adhere to their principles no matter what. That's what I like about Nancy as a coach. They play possession-based attacking soccer all the time. At home, on the road, doesn't matter.
Are you guys at home or on the road?
We're at home. So
you're at home.
Huge game for us. Big game against Columbus, obviously. Yeah. I appreciate that. My boy Gordo will be watching us. It should be a good game. Obviously,
outside of playing, because I know you. I have a feeling you're going to get the nod, getting the week off, the midweek fixture. Are you going to try and catch any other game in particular?
Yep, game that caught my eye. 2 teams going in different directions right now. Seattle Sounders hosting New York Red Bulls, one of my old teams.
Mm-hmm.
New York Red Bulls
doing a decent job, huh?
New York Red Bulls fire their coach. New coach comes in. Bam, little pop, right? I met Troy Lesane a few years ago in preseason. Had no idea who he was. Came up, introduced himself to me. Really delightful guy. Really nice, soft-spoken. You could tell he knows the game very well. I think he's already doing a great job. He's going to do a good job for Red Bull. I think they're 4 games unbeaten, two wins and a draw in the league, as well as advancing them in the Open Cup. Mm-hmm. So I think they have a lot of positive momentum heading their way. Seattle, falling off a little bit after their good start. They've had a few injuries, right? Rui Diaz, Roldan. Their status is still up in the air, and they've lost 2 or 3 games in a row now. So I think it's a big game for both teams. I think we'll find out if Red Bull is the real deal when they go into Seattle this weekend. So that's what I'm watching.
I think for me, the game of the weekend is San Jose, Dallas. They're 2 really good teams that I think have some potential to make some noise throughout the season and potentially in the playoffs. I like San Jose. I like Lucci. I like what they're doing. They're going toe-to-toe with some big-time foes and also getting results. But I'm going to go back down to City Park, and I'm watching St. Louis again. I was in attendance for the derby in KC St. Louis. And you know what? It's not the prettiest soccer you've ever seen, but they are all bought into the system. They are passionate, to the 10th degree. And they also have, I think, a real 12th man. The environment.
Atmosphere looks incredible.
Electric. Yeah. The whole bottom bowl stands the whole game, which I thought and I found to be like really, really special. And they absolutely put it on KC this weekend. It was from minute 1 all the way through, and they got a lot of people involved, and they're doing it without Klaus. And Klaus is a player. Carnell, I think, kind of tweaked his lineup a little bit, tweaked his formation. Leuven is a player. Berkey is making some pretty outrageous saves, and they're a fun team. You don't really know what's going on because they are 112 miles an hour. But they're fun to watch, and they have Vancouver this weekend, who just picked up a result against Seattle.
Another sneaky good team.
Yeah,
hey, I'm gonna challenge you guys as professional podcasters to keep this going for like 30 seconds. Have Gordo tell a joke. I've got a little surprise for you guys. Give me 30 seconds. Gordo, come on. Can you guys keep this thing going for 30 seconds?
Absolutely.
I'll be right back.
I got tons of stories.
Are they safe for work, Gordo? What's
you
your
guys
latest?
heard the soup? You heard the Pano soup story? That's a great
Pano.
one.
How about Pano, dude? Is he in the final?
He has taken them to the final. Chivas.
Year one. So does that make you a complete idiot for discrediting Pano when you were there, or is
Pano
he
did the
just
same thing in
or is he
Chicago.
reborn? Which one is that?
Pano did the same thing in Chicago. Okay, he did the same thing. They had a great season. Season 1, when Basti came in, we talked to Basti about it. They were fantastic. Here's the thing with Pano. Okay, Pano knows what he's doing. He's a great soccer mind, but he's also a lunatic. Okay, he's an absolute.
The best
lunatic.
coaches are, though.
Yeah, that's true, but you can only. I mean, with him, it was like he's such a lunatic. Like he's just he'll lose the team. He will lose it. He will if it's going good. Then he's great.
He'll find a way. He'll find a way to screw it up.
Yeah, he's
I hear
intense.
Gordo going off on a tangent on Pano right now.
That's right. I love him. I'm not talking shit. I'm not talking shit.
Hey,
listen.
I'm gonna need you guys to just sit tight for a second. Someone wants to tell you something.
Should we close our eyes, Dax?
Yeah. You guys took advantage of a guy that had been drinking 3 times longer than you. And then with the sun coming up, I go and teach you how to play the game. For Christ's sake, the basketball.
Dart, how the hell are you, my friend?
I'm upright.
Hey, for the listeners, you know, this sometimes mentioned late night at Dax's house after a game. We ended up with Dax's dad, Dart. He's a lovely man. You know, can't drink for shit, but he, you know, we went out and played knockout in the basketball courts until about 3 a.m. You couldn't see anything. And I was throwing the ball at Dart, and he didn't know what was coming at him. It hit him right in the chest and pop off. I mean, I couldn't see anything
Right in the
either,
face.
But right in the face. That's
Right
right.
in the face.
And
For Christ's sake, you're hitting an old man.
He's
right in
a
the
warrior.
face.
He was talking shit the whole time, man. Never stopped. Never hesitated. Man, what a lovely person. I love you, man. I miss you.
Yeah, I was going Mach 2 with my hair on fire that night.
That's right.
Take us home, Dan. He just wanted to say hi.
Hey, Dart, it's great to see you, man. As a
guys
fellow
are great.
journeyman, yeah, man. It's been a special episode. So I'm glad you graced us. And for those journeymen that are on the ride with us, until next time, we'll catch you guys out there.